Good evening, everyone. Welcome to. Do we have some feedback here? We're working out the kinks, so don't mind us. How is that? Welcome to the Black Authors and Readers Rock Weekend Chat with Sherry Woods.
Hi.
We hope that you all, well, we just hope a lot of people have joined us, right? And if you know me, I'm just going to be me. And Sherry's just going to be Sherry.
Yeah.
I am Sharon Lucas, the founder of the Black Authors and Readers Rock Weekend. And Sherry Woods is a 16-year plus public relations veteran who works in the area of arts and culture. Her primary client base is self-published authors and authors published by small presses. She is also the author of Where Do I Start? 10 PR questions and answers to guide the self-published author. And we hope that you're going to pay real good attention this evening and learn a lot. Okay, Miss Wood, how are you this evening?
I'm well. How are you?
I've been better, but I'm okay. Okay. You didn't have much snow in Baltimore, right?
Well, we had snow, but I think, I'm in the city and I'm close to downtown, so they tend to keep the roads really clear. They pre-salted, they cleared the sidewalk, so I don't get to see the worst of the snow. It's probably, further out.
Okay. I live in Bowie and we had plenty of snow, and of course they only plowed down the street, and goodness knows they're not going to do anything to our sidewalks.
Oh, okay.
But, my son came home and cleared them, so I'm happy.
That's wonderful.
Well, my husband wasn't happy because he bought himself a snow thing. What do you call it? A snow
blower.
And there really wasn't enough snow for it. So.
Okay.
Anyway, so now that we've covered the snow,
right,
I'm going to ask some hard questions. What do you think?
Okay, I'm going to come up for it. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I think the one thing that I find is that a lot of people really don't know what a publicist is and why they need one. So why don't we kind of get that out of the way? Can you tell us what a publicist does and why an author needs a publicist?
Okay. Well, I think most people's ideas about what a publicist is strictly Hollywood. You see publicists speaking for actors, and it's all very glamorous. So that's Hollywood. And no, the average author isn't in Hollywood. So just basically some of the things that an author's publicist does, and I've made a complete list because there's quite a few things. But the primary purpose of your publicist is to connect you to the media outlets. And of course, in these times, there are the regular outlets, print publications, radio, television, of course, now online. There's a proliferation of online media, whether it's blog talk radio, podcasts, blogs. So that's our primary goal, is to take you and your book product and connect you to media so that more people know about you and you broaden both your profile, your brand, and sales for your books. That's kind of our main purpose. Now, in that process, there are other things that we do for you in your book. And they include, so we will make sure that your author's bio and synopsis are professional. So we're going to review them, we're going to edit them because there's a professional standard. We can request book reviews from specific outlets or trade publications that review books. We look at your social media channels to make sure that, they're professional. We want also in your social media channels to continue your brand. So we might be looking at designing that cover page for Facebook or for Twitter so that when people go to all of your different social media channels, they know right away that's yours. And oftentimes we recommend that you have an author page separate to your personal page, depending on what you're using your personal page for. Some of us, we also plan your book launch because that can be a really big deal and a great opportunity to sell your book, and also an opportunity to get media to come out to cover the event. And we can also help you get readings or signings at venues with high traffic, like bookstores, the Barnes and Nobles, or some, independent bookstores have a lot of customers now. A lot of these independent bookstores are doing really well. And also what we really do too is, let's face it, few authors have the budgets to reach out to every single person. So we're going to help you identify your primary readership. Who are the people most likely to read your book? And let's push a lot of our work and drive and attention to that primary readership. And a lot of authors are not able to identify that main group all on their own. So those are some of the things that we do.
All righty. There have been many changes in the publishing industry over the years. Could you tell us how those changes have affected the publicity departments of major publishing houses?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to know one or two publicists that work within the big publishing houses. And, in general, there was the 2008 financial crash. And I believe in 2009, Amazon started doing print on demand, which of course has created the whole self-published author market. But also, as I spoke with a colleague, they were sharing that also in the 90s and 2000s, publishing houses started to realize that there were some publishing superstars who were kind of happening, like, the Harry Potter franchise, the Hunger Games, 50 Shades of Grey. They were noticing that these books were selling across all genres. Okay. And there was a lot of excitement, a lot of sales. So they've started to very slowly kind of channel a lot more of the institutional support, both in staffing and dollars, to really stand behind those type of books, which are mostly series, because they're finding that they can make a lot more dollars focusing on these publishing superstars than spreading those dollars across the board to sort of a whole larger group of authors. So that's been the trend. And I think we're also seeing lately that, authors who already have a very strong established platform, like celebrities, you see a lot of celebrities getting book deals. And of course, because they have this great platform, their books are selling. And most of those books are memoirs. So that's kind of been the trend, is probably focus in on specific authors, superstars, and put more support there rather than spread it out as much as they used to in the past. And that's a trend that seems to probably be sticking. They're sticking with that trend.
So where does that leave the average author?
Well, according again to my colleague, it doesn't mean that they're ignoring everyone else, but there's sort of a pecking order. So there's the superstars, there's the mid-list authors, and then there's, the new. And they shared that they're more equipping the mid-list authors with tools to help them do some of their own PR. And they're also actually encouraging them to hire independent publicists, which is really interesting and probably good for people like me. But and what they're doing is ensuring that, so if you are published with a traditional publisher and you're sort of the mid-list author, they're encouraging you to get that independent publicist to speak with the in-house publicist. So it's kind of a bit of teamwork. If you're newer than that and your book doesn't become one of the superstars, you're kind of on your own. And so again, independent publicists are probably your best route. That's kind of the way the industry is now.
I think that's interesting, but what I think is really, really interesting is that they are encouraging you.
Yes, that's really new.
I think that there was a period when people were feeling left out.
Yes.
They weren't getting their money's worth, that they did this for Terry McMillan 20 years ago, and now look what they're doing for me. So if they're encouraging them, I see that as a plus, because at least I like to know what's happening.
And I think that's good. You're right.
Yeah. So I really see that as a plus.
Yeah, I think so, because I think sometimes, a lot of authors, they get that book deal and they think right away that that means it comes with a lot of publicity. Well, it doesn't. And I think it's good that they know that up front, and they're being encouraged to find other resources rather than their books are sitting there and they got the deal and they're wondering, well, what's going on? And they're getting frustrated. So hang on one sec. I think we're having a camera.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Don't panic, anybody. This is something new that I'm doing, and thank goodness Sherry and I were on for about 10 minutes before we brought you all in, and she found that works. If she blanks out, just wait for it.
I'll be back quickly.
Okay. So I think this is kind of an extension of my last question, which is, what do you consider the greatest constraint, both for publishing houses and individual authors, as it pertains to publicity?
Well, it really is dollars,
Okay.
It comes right down to money and availability. And also, the other constraint now is that there are so many people publishing their books that the competition is stiff. There's, when you look at the numbers now, they're saying, and that may have increased, but it's been like about 1 million books are published each year just in the US, and about 50% of those books are written by self-published authors. So you've got a lot of people out here vying for those dollars. How do you stand out? How do you stand out as a self-published author? So, yeah.
So, you talk about budgets when you decide that you're going to write a book, if you're going to self-publish, and we're going to do that another day. I'm not going to say we're going to get into all of that tonight, but when is the ideal time for an author to engage a publicist, and should they be thinking about those dollars from the beginning?
Yes, they really need to. In the publishing, traditionally published companies, in that world, the publicity, the publicists get the book sort of 6 months out before the book is even goes to the public. They know about that book. 6 months, they begin working on publicity for that book before the book is released to the public.
Okay.
So obviously, the publishing house is covering those costs. For me, and I'm going minimal because I know budgets are limited, 2 months out would be so wonderful. I would love to start working with an author at least 2 months before their book is available for purchase. That would be ideal, because in that time, we can get their book covers up. We can get, pre-sales going. There's so much we can do. I can write that press release and start pitching the producers. And, it's always ideal if, you're getting that coverage right as the book comes out. That's the ideal world. The real world is I get books, I get calls from authors 2-3 years later. Sometimes more. And so then what I have to do is, that's where my thinking cap goes on. And I really think about what's going on in the market. How can we re-release this book and make it relevant? And that's a lot more challenging, because I have to then really persuade the producers, TV shows, at TV, radio, and print that, okay, yes, it came out in this year, but you know what? It's still relevant now. And that's where my relationships come in. So yes, authors, if you've got a book coming out, 2 months out, it would be a really good time to hire me.
So you'd like to see authors come to you before they have chosen the cover?
Yes, that would be so wonderful.
They have slapped a synopsis on it that doesn't make sense.
Yes. Please.
All right.
And even if you're not at that point where you're able to hire me for the whole campaign, then I do offer individual services. So at least let me look at your book cover and write your synopsis and bio so that it's professional. At the very least, start there.
Okay. Yeah. What do you believe are the 3 most important things for an author to consider when choosing a publicist?
Okay, when choosing your publicist, please ensure that your publicist has experience in publicizing books. Particularly, try to ensure that they've publicized your genre. And if they haven't publicized your specific genre of books, just at least do some background checks on what they've done. I mean, they have a website, hopefully. Look at their testimonials. And I'll say to people, if your publicist is listing testimonials with the author's names, it's probably credible. So if you see the author's name, you can either ask the publicist or find that author on your own and ask them, what was it like working with that publicist? So make sure they have some type of publicity experience, because it's necessary. It's hard to wing that. Two, that's one, experience. Two, make sure they have some enthusiasm for your project. Because if they don't have enthusiasm for your project, how are they going to persuade producers and editors and hosts to have you on as a guest or to write about your book? You've got to see that they can express that level of enthusiasm when you talk to them about your book. Because as authors, you're working in isolation. You need that support from someone who's working on your book as well. And number three, choose a publicist who can communicate. And when I say communicate the tough stuff. It'd be great to hire someone who agrees with everything that you do, that you want, but that's not who you want in a publicist. That might be your best friend, but your publicist needs to be able to be frank with you. They need to be able to give you a critique. And then you have to understand the difference between a critique and a criticism. A critique is an evaluation of what's not working and with a solution to make it better. So you've got to have that tough love publicist. Otherwise, you might have a great relationship with them, but is your book going to benefit? So make sure your publicist isn't too timid. And so this is one area where you want someone who's frank with you and will tell you exactly what's wrong. But again, understand that they're on your side and they want you to have the best product that they can have. So that's enthusiasm for your book, frank in their communication, and of course, why am I going blank? Experience. Enthusiasm, communication style, and experience. Those are your three key things to look for.
For those of you who don't know, Sherry has been my publicist, not for my book, but for the Black Authors and Readers Rock Weekend. And the one thing that I don't know if she will admit to tonight, but I had to laugh when she told me that she really likes to get to know those people that she agrees to work with. And I guess while I was interviewing her, she was interviewing me. And there's nothing wrong with that. I really think that you don't have to be besties, but you have to have a level of respect for each other, or you're just wasting money. That's I'm not the publicist. I'm just telling you how I feel from my side. What would you say about that? You agree?
You know what? I agree. You've got to have a certain level of respect on both sides, but at the end of the day, too, I want people to keep in mind that you're hiring an expert, and even if we're getting along, our primary relationship is as a client and a publicist. And there will be times where we need to really be clear that this is business. And I've had that challenge where I think sometimes, because I'm not maybe attached to a major publishing house, and so we're talking where some of my clients think, oh, this is Sherry's personal opinion, and maybe I don't need to listen. But no, when we're talking business, it's not Sherry's opinion. It's the industry standard of how things are done. So even if some things may not necessarily make sense to you, I will do my best to explain, but just keep in mind that my end goal is to lift you up. Even if you may not always agree with what I'm sharing, That's my goal. It's never to make you look bad or to lower your brand. And I think sometimes I'm sure it's difficult, but just remember that. Think of me as your plumber, your IT specialist. It's kind of the same idea. I kind of know really what works, but there's still always room for discussion. But sometimes if we hit an impasse, you may have to let me, the professional, kind of get the yes on that one.
Okay, you need to hit it again. Well, we heard there she is. Well, in addition to publicity, could you share with our audience what other services you provide for authors?
And yes, I do provide other services because, again, with self-published or independent authors, you don't have the support of a publisher and of a publishing house. And in that publishing house, they have a department for everything. There's a creative department, there's the editorial department, there's the IT, there's the marketing. So when you come to me, typically, I'm probably your one-stop shop. So for that reason, I have, it's interesting how I would say every few months I add something else because I can do it. And sometimes the clients require it and it's just easier. So I do have a team that I contract out to. So I do web design services, book cover designs, which I actually love to do because my background is mostly in working in art museums. So I have a very good eye for effective covers. I mean, if you're not ready to hire me for a campaign, I do consultations and I have different prices. And sometimes people will talk to me for 45, 90 minutes and really get what they need just from that conversation. I'll help authors get into library collections because I do have contacts with the libraries, and certainly the library in the Baltimore County and Baltimore City system. I help you figure out how to get testimonials. Sometimes I help you get books into some of the independent bookstores. And lately I've added book coaching to my list of services because I did a 90-minute consultation session with a client and she just thought that I was that helpful that she asked me to help coach her to write her book. And so I guess because I'm also a self-published author twice, I know that process. So I'm the one-stop shop. Publicity plus is what I should really say that I do.
So book coaching is someone who wants to write a book.
Right.
They need someone to kind of walk them through getting it done.
Right. Okay. So we meet monthly and she has writing exercises. And then when we meet, we go over what she's written and I give her prompts and, help her talk through that because for some people, they need that little push. Mm-hmm. Not everyone is sort of as self-driven as others. But she's starting to write, and the book, I think, is going to be amazing.
I know that you really believe in, and I don't know what happened. Okay. I know you really believe in writing groups.
Yes.
Can you tell us just a little bit about belonging to a writing group?
Well, and I just joined another one. I'm the group person, so I think that anywhere that authors are meeting, you should try to meet. I'm in 2 writing critique groups. I'm in the Black Writers Guild of Maryland as well. I mean, you pick up so many tips at the Black Writers Guild meetings. They also have education sessions, but I think what I learned mostly at the Guild meetings is what not to do, which are the presses that people aren't happy with. It's kind of the author gossip world, like what's not working. So I learned a lot of that. Oh, don't use that publishing company. Oh, here's a good idea for an editor. So that's great. With the writing critique groups, I get to really test out, like I'm working on a new book. And so I'm in one that meets every 2 weeks and we all get a chance to read from our books and get critiqued by the group members. It's invaluable. It really, really is. It's such a great opportunity to share your work and get feedback that might help you finish your work.
Okay. Well, what is the best way for a person to contact you if they would like to talk with you about services?
The best way to contact me, well, you can go to my website, www.eclecticpr.com, and that's ECLECTIC, PR.com. Or you can email me. I'm an email queen. So I'm just going to let everybody, I still love email. It's still my favorite form of communication. And that's info at eclecticpr.com. That's the best way to find me. I'm pretty responsive. Give me at least 24 hours or less. And yes, I would love to hear from you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being with us tonight. I
Thank
just want
you.
to take just a minute to say, if you're watching us tonight, please look at the page you're on and go to our website and learn all about the Black Authors and Readers Rock Weekend that will be happening October 4th and 5th. Thank you and have a real good evening.
Okay, thanks everyone. Hope to hear from you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.